Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to talk a little bit today about why you may feel like your life has no meaning. I'm going to be talking a lot about some of the traps I found myself into and how I sort of got out of them. I didn't know at the time that I was going to live a more meaningful life, but I kind of wanted to share my experience to see if in case anyone was experiencing something similar, how they might be able to get out of it. I saw a post the other day on my Instagram from a person, I think the account was Existential Dialogues, and he made a post about Nietzsche's exploration into nihilism, and I shared it on my story, and I said that as humans we create the meaning that is in our lives, and that post didn't sit quite right with me, because while I do think that is true, it's more complicated than that. Like, we don't get to choose the things in our life that have meaning. We all have sort of a default mode of like what we find meaningful and then what we find boring. Like, we all have unique interests. Like, we can develop them over time, but at a certain level, if you're not interested in something, you can't make yourself really like interested in it. And so I got to thinking, like, how exactly do we create the meaning? And as I was thinking about it, I was reminded of a Jonathan Haidt quote. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist that he writes about happiness, and he had a book about happiness that I read, The Happiness Hypothesis. It's pretty good, you should read it. And anyway, the quote is, "Happiness is not something that you can find, acquire, or achieve directly. You have to get the conditions right and then wait." And I think it's much the same with meaning. We can sort of try to discover the things that we find meaningful, but we can't create the meaning. Meaning is a byproduct. Meaning is a sort of a subjective feeling that arises when you're like in line with yourself and the actions that you're taking in the world. It's like a line. And so I got to thinking, like, how exactly do we get the conditions right where everything is aligned? And I came to see that there are two elements to getting these conditions right. The first is that you need to take into account your life experiences. So there's an element of reflection in with it, but then you also need to make use of those life experiences. You can't just, a trap I fell into, and I'll get more into it later, is you can't just be reflecting. You have to do something with all of your reflections. Sorry, the wind came and knocked over my tripod. So you can't just be acting in the world, because then you aren't doing things that are aligned with like your most updated experiences. And I'll explain that more in a little bit. But there's just so many tragedies in life that making meaning is sort of essential, because you're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where you don't want to do anything. You're going to have days where, honestly, you might be questioning why you're even here, like, what's the point of it all? And finding a sense of meaning sort of makes it okay to have all those bad days, because when it justifies their experience. If you can somehow take those bad days and actually want them to occur because you get to do this thing that is meaningful, it changes your entire life. As I said, there's an element of reflection, and then there's an element of acting. And I personally found myself in a trap of trying to figure out the perfect place to go. I got caught in the reflection, and I was just miserable. I discovered that to a certain extent, where you go doesn't really matter. You just need to make the best decision given the information that you have, because you learn more new things about the world as you're moving through the world. There's only so much you can learn, like sitting in your room, reflecting, meditating, or like whatever. Like, you have to do things. You have to take action on honestly anything, because when you take action on anything, you learn from that experience the things that align with you, the things that you can't stand, and even the things that you can't stand, you're able to learn sort of a perseverance. You're able to learn how to take the good with the bad. And I personally discovered that as I am doing some things that I'm not so certain about if it's going to be like a long-term thing or whatever, if it's the best decision I've made, I've actually found that meaning is not an end product. It is something that arises when you take your current situation into account and act on it. And your current situation, to a certain extent, involves your life experiences. I fell into the trap of thinking, once I have all these things in my life arranged, meaning will arise. And it's a trap, because if I'm thinking meaning is somewhere down in the future once I've aligned everything, it's never going to be where I am now. And it's actually the process of trying to sort of figure out life and just move with it that causes the meaning to arise. When you wed the reflection of life with the action, or taking action on what you have reflected upon, meaning arises in that process. It doesn't arrive at an end state after you've done that process for a time. So that doesn't mean to say that all these actions that we are taking, like, to be honest, say you don't know what you want to be, and you're like, I don't want to be a dishwasher long term. Like, why would I be a dishwasher? Why would I go get a job as a dishwasher right now? Like, what? But in that, as I kind of alluded to earlier, in that experience, you learn the things you like, the things you dislike, as I said earlier, and they'll open up more doors for you to continue moving forward. And as you continue moving forward, things are sort of more aligned with a more honest version of yourself, rather than a self that's sort of, I don't know, it just aligns more with yourself. It feels better. So again, everything I just said probably was abstract, probably makes no sense, and if you stuck around with me for this long, thank you. Drop a like below. I don't know. Why not? It's just right there. But I'll give more in depth my story and how I sort of came to these ideas, to give a sort of a context and how it has played out in my own life. So when I was in high school, I ran year round. I did cross country, indoor and outdoor track as a distance runner, and I was constantly getting myself injured. I did not have good nutrition. It just wasn't a good thing. And from always being injured, I never went to someone to help. I never went to a physical therapist to get the help, but I found that I enjoyed researching physical therapy and how to sort of improve my injuries. And so I decided that I want to be a physical therapist when I grew up. And then between my junior and senior year of high school, my mom passed away, and you can't just that's a life experience that you can't negate. Like, I went to undergrad and I still wanted to be a physical therapist, but undergraduate for me was it was not a difficult time. I'll be honest. Well, school-wise, it was not difficult. Emotionally and meaning-wise, I had no meaning. It was very difficult emotionally. And I was doing everything that I needed to continue being a physical therapist, but I had lots of free time and I didn't know how to spend them, and so I was miserable even though I was doing the thing that I thought I wanted to do. But I wasn't taking my present life circumstances into account. I was taking my high school life circumstance, my pre-death circumstances into account. I hadn't accounted for everything that I guess it didn't account with the experiences I had going through my mom's death and following it. And I quickly reached a point where I was just like, something needs to change. Like I'm just miserable. I need to do something. And so I began meditating, and soon after I began meditating, I began reading philosophy, particularly Nietzsche at first, and this quickly consumed all of my time. I stopped my it took a while, but I eventually stopped my terrible habits of like smoking weed just so much. I don't think there's anything wrong with weed, but the way I was using it was not a healthy relationship with the substance. And the meditating and philosophy were sort of my doorways out of my misery. Meaning didn't arise as I was doing that. I didn't think it had arisen, but I knew deep down that these two things I cannot effectively do while I'm high, and it sort of helped. It was sort of a reassurance that this is my way out. This is my way out of misery. And that sort of me just telling myself it's my way out was actually meaning, but I wasn't happy. There is a difference between living a meaningful life and living a happy life, because I knew I was heading in the right direction. I knew I had begun to reflect and take into account my life experiences, but I still wasn't happy. And I didn't feel I had meaning because of the trap I mentioned earlier, that it's somewhere else. But as I moved along, I just did this meditation thing I was meditating so much, and I did this for a year and a half, and to be quite frank, life did not improve all that much, because I was just reflecting on my life experiences, and I was taking action of meditating, and you can learn so much from meditating. Like, I'm not trying to discount the meditation when I say this, but I needed to take action on everything that I was learning from meditation. And last summer, I decided to start an Instagram page that was talking about a lot of quotes, and I would write about the quotes based on insights I had gained from my meditation experience. And again, when I'm doing all that meditating, my main trauma in life, I guess you can say, is my mom's death. So I wanted to help people who had any sort of trauma just go through it, and I just wanted to try to help people. And when I decided to make that Instagram page, I was overwhelmed with such an overwhelming sense of energy that this is exactly where I needed to be. It was a moment of just perfect alignment of my life experiences, and now I was taking action on it. It was just, I am absolutely in the right place. Subjectively, this meaning felt different than the meaning I had earlier, but they were both meaning. Meaning is just conceptually, we think meaning means that all of our life problems go away, but it really doesn't. It just, you're moving forward based on, you're just moving forward in a way that is aligned with yourself. That's really all meaning means. And whatever, it's just just move forward. Just try your best. Honestly, it sounds ridiculous to say, but meaning is just trying your best. in my opinion. So after that initial sense of feeling of what I associated with meaning, I began to experience a lot of anxiety, because now there was this thing on Instagram that took into account my experiences dealing with my mom's death, and I was taking action on it. But then there was the other side of, I still loved physical therapy and I loved everything to do with the body, and I just got a lot of anxiety of, how do I wed? Like, I don't know how to wed these two. And at the moment, I still don't really know how I'm going to wed the two. But I once again, I fell into the trap of thinking, once I know how to wed my Instagram side of things, not just Instagram, but my more spiritual side of things with my more scientific physical therapy body side of things, when I do that, meaning is going to arise for me. And so I went on a rat race, sort of trying to make meaning arise, make meaning arise, make meaning arise. And as I said earlier, I kind of want to rephrase what I said earlier, actually. I said earlier that if you think meaning is somewhere else, it will never be where you are. And to an extent, I think that is true. But I was moving forward with a purpose of wedding these two things. Maybe it wasn't the most comfortable thing. It wasn't what I conceived of meaning feeling like, but it was meaning. You know, it like, meaning, a meaningful life isn't a blissful life. It's not just a happy life. It's that you're going somewhere. You're going somewhere positive, as I just said a few minutes ago. Like, you're going in the right direction. And so as I will admit, as I'm going forward, I'm learning how to wed these two more clearly, because I'm continuing to reflect and take action on both of them. And I still don't know quite how I'm doing it, but I have better ideas. And the process of figuring it out is meaningful. It doesn't always feel good or happy, but it is a meaningful thing. So just to recap this whole long tangent I've gone on, meaning is something that we do not directly create. We create the conditions for them to arise, and then it comes. We create the conditions, and we create the conditions by reflecting and taking our life experiences into account and moving forward based on those experiences. And it's not always a blissful experience. It's that you're moving forward to the best of your current ability, because all you ever are is your current self. The meaning isn't going to arise later once you figure things out. It's going to arise as you figure your life out. So that's all I have for today's video. Let me know in the comments below if you were able to get anything out of it. I know I actually got some stuff out of it just by talking and doing this whole new YouTube thing that I don't have any experience with, as you could probably tell. Also, let me know below if you have any suggestions on how I can maybe speak more clearly, because it takes me a long time to get to the point and I'm not very concise. So yeah, peace out, have a good one.